The Cheapshotter. The Cheapshotter is the dirtiest kind of street fighter. They strike when you're distracted, turned away, or least expecting it. They don't want to fight, they want an ambush. Cheap shots usually come from a mix of anger, fear, and cowardice, and they're all about ending things before they even start. This can be a punch to the back of the head, a groin kick, or a sudden attack with a bottle or blade. The damage? Way worse than in a normal fight. When you're not braced, injuries hit harder. Concussions, knockouts, even permanent trauma. Cheap shotters rely on surprise, not skill. They weaponize your lack of awareness. And in the street, that makes them one of the most dangerous and pathetic types you'll face. I See Red. The I See Red fighter is driven entirely by emotion, not training. Fueled by adrenaline, they explode with uncontrolled aggression, charging in, throwing haymakers, ignoring defense, and losing all tactical awareness. While that raw intensity can be dangerous in the first few seconds, it's unsustainable. They tire quickly, swing inaccurately, and lack any sense of timing or balance. Physiologically, their heart rate spikes, fine motor skills drop, and tunnel vision sets in, making them vulnerable to anyone who stays calm. These fighters don't process risk, they react, and that makes them unpredictable, not unbeatable. In almost every case, composure and strategy will outlast rage. In a fight, it's not about who's angriest, it's about who's thinking. The Loudmouth. The Loudmouth is a psychological aggressor. Rather than initiating violence, they attempt to provoke it through verbal threats, shouting, and exaggerated gestures. This behavior is rooted in dominance display, a social tactic to intimidate without immediate risk. Functionally, the Loudmouth tries to control the interaction by escalating tension. If you react emotionally, they gain the upper hand, even without throwing a punch. Risks include attracting a crowd, creating unpredictable social dynamics, or concealing a sudden attack behind theatrics. The typical profile of a Loudmouth is untrained, insecure, relies on bluff and noise over actual skill, and usually they are not able to back up whatever nonsense is coming out of their mouth. The Martial Artist. The martial artist is usually the last person to start a street fight. With formal training often comes discipline, restraint, and respect. They know their capabilities, and that knowledge alone is often enough to avoid unnecessary conflict. From boxing to taekwondo, these individuals are conditioned, composed, and confident under pressure. But that same confidence can become a blind spot. Relying solely on one's skill can create a false sense of control in chaotic situations. The street doesn't play by gym rules. There are no referees, mats, or one-on-one guarantees. Most martial artists can defend themselves effectively, especially against untrained attackers. But danger rises when overconfidence leads them to engage instead of walk away. In street fights, it's not just skill that matters. It's context, awareness, and restraint. Training is a powerful tool, but humility is the real defense. The sprinter. The runner is often the smartest fighter in the room because they don't fight at all. This type prioritizes escape over ego and avoidance over dominance. Whether motivated by fear, legal awareness, or survival instinct, the runner understands that no street fight is worth the risk of injury, arrest, or escalation. They'll retreat early, use distance or physical barriers, and might shout or draw attention. All tactics rooted in self-preservation. Far from cowardice, this shows control, awareness, and discipline. In fact, the ability to walk away under pressure often takes more strength than swinging a fist. The downside? Some runners may later return with backup or a weapon, but most just want the situation to end. The key takeaway is simple. Escaping a fight doesn't mean losing. It means surviving. In a street fight, the person who avoids violence entirely is almost always the real winner. The guy with friends. This is the type of fighter who only acts tough when surrounded. They rely on numbers, not skill, using group presence to intimidate and control the situation. You'll often see them puffed up, gesturing, shouting, daring you to make the first move. But it's not confidence, it's a performance for their friends. Individually, they're rarely dangerous, but collectively, they're unpredictable. Fights like this can spiral fast. One person swings, and suddenly 4 more are involved. Coordination breaks down, and that's when serious injuries happen. Someone gets stomped, blindsided, or worse. The group fighter isn't about honor or skill. They're about dominance through numbers. In these situations, trying to prove yourself is a mistake. You're not fighting one guy. You're fighting his ego and his entourage. And in the street, that's a losing game. The dirty fighter. The dirty fighter doesn't care about fairness, technique, or reputation, only about doing damage. This is the person who bites, gouges eyes, rakes the face, kicks the groin, or grabs anything nearby to use as a weapon. In their mind, a street fight is a zero-sum game, and rules don't exist. What makes them dangerous isn't just their unpredictability, it's their intent. Dirty fighters don't stop when you're down. they escalate. And because their tactics are fueled by panic, rage, or desperation, things like permanent injury or infection from bites and scratches become real risks. But dirty doesn't mean skilled. They often rely on shock value. Once that fails, they gas out or lose control under resistance. Their biggest weapon is surprise, not endurance. The takeaway? If someone's willing to fight dirty, it's not a match. It's a survival scenario. Forget pride, defend your vital areas, and disengage fast. The lawyer. This type of person responds to conflict with legal awareness rather than aggression. They typically avoid physical confrontation and instead rely on verbal warnings, visible recording devices, and references to law or liability. Their goal is deterrence, to make the other party think twice by introducing the risk of legal consequences. The strength of this approach lies in psychological control. Most street fights are emotionally driven, and the sudden shift toward legal framing, being filmed, being named, or being reported can defuse aggression. It works especially well in public spaces where bystanders or cameras are present. However, there are real limitations. The lawyer type often assumes that others will also value rules or restraint, which isn't always the case. If violence escalates suddenly, this person may be physically unprepared. There's also the risk of post-conflict manipulation, where recordings get edited, accusations are twisted, or lawsuits follow regardless of fault. Understanding legal outcomes is useful, but relying solely on legality without preparedness leaves gaps in personal safety. A well-rounded street-smart mindset includes both legal awareness and physical readiness. The drunk. The drunk fighter is one of the most unpredictable threats in a street scenario. Intoxication impairs motor control, spatial awareness, and judgment, yet often boosts aggression and emotional volatility. You'll see erratic behavior, sudden shouting, swaying movements, and wild, inaccurate swings. Despite their clumsiness, drunks can be deceptively dangerous. Alcohol dulls pain receptors, so even solid strikes might not register or stop them immediately. That false sense of invincibility can escalate situations fast, especially if others get involved. Their unpredictability is their greatest weapon. You don't know if they'll throw a punch, start crying, or pull a bottle. Legally engaging with an intoxicated person carries major risk. Injuring someone visibly impaired, even if they instigated, can result in charges or public backlash. Their lack of control doesn't make you less liable. In short, drunk fighters are not strategic threats, but they are volatile liabilities. When possible, de-escalate, keep space, and let them trip over their own imbalance. The spectator. Spectators are often underestimated in a street fight, but they can be one of the most destabilizing factors. While they're not directly involved in the violence, their presence changes the psychological and tactical landscape. Most fights escalate in public, and the crowd adds pressure, distortion, and unpredictability. Spectators influence outcomes in several ways. They may cheer, heckle, film the incident, or encourage participants to keep fighting when they otherwise might have stopped. Their behavior can push individuals to act more aggressively out of pride, fear of humiliation, or social pressure. In some cases, a spectator may even step in and become a participant, turning a one-on-one into a group altercation. From a risk standpoint, they create problems. They can block your escape route, interfere with your awareness of threats, and capture footage that's edited or misinterpreted later in court. Spectators don't prioritize truth, they amplify spectacle. In real-world self-defense, understanding the crowd dynamic is critical. The more people watching, the less control you have. Smart fighters don't just monitor their opponent, they constantly track the environment.